We finally lined up our schedules. We've been talking about doing this for a while. We're waiting for the in-season production, awesome video the Bluecoats Percussion have always put out. Well, not always. Last 2 years, right, Tom? Last year, this year were the first 2 years you all have done this.
Yeah, past couple years. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're waiting for the media team over there to do their thing. It's on YouTube. Make sure you go subscribe to the Bluecoats YouTube channel. Hot start. And make sure you subscribe. Watch the original video. Link will be in the description. It's an awesome, well-produced, well-played, awesome arranging. But before we jump in, welcome everyone to the Aged Out Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Fantini, and with me, as always, is
Evan Worrell.
And we'll make this as fast as humanly possible. Comment, like, subscribe on the video, share it with anyone. Facebook, Instagram, give us a follow there. Patreon.com or the join button right here on YouTube. And Aged Out Fundamentals, drum every day. Link to that's also in the video description. And I feel like I'm forgetting something. Did I miss something, Evan?
You want to buy a t-shirt?
Oh, yeah, there it is. AgedOutPodcast.com. Grab a t-shirt or a logo sticker, whatever you want. And Evan, take it. We'll get rolling.
Yeah, so back for what feels like now annual sit down with Mr. Tom Rarick. We always appreciate the time that he sets aside to just come tell us about the production, some thought process behind how things were put together, some thought process behind how music was selected, how it evolved over the summer. So yeah, man, we're glad to have you back again.
For sure. Thanks for having me back, guys. It's been about a month, a little bit more, so it's great to go back and relive some of this and kind of put a spotlight back on the performers and talk to you guys through the show. So
yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's a special group, obviously finished competitively really well. I mean, that's always a nice cherry on top when you come away with a gold medal. So kudos to the design, the tech team, and also as well the members. So congratulations on the Founders Trophy there.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Yeah, it was a special group of the full core. I mean, it was a special summer, the way the show came together, the way the members really rose to the occasion and elevated that show. It was just a really fun project all summer long. So yeah, thanks.
Obviously you all won in the end, but you could tell from the very beginning, first regional that I saw, and obviously you'd been doing well on the sheets anyway as a full core going into the first regional, but you saw the first regional and this is different. You could just tell it was a special production, special group of individuals performing it. It was a pleasure to watch all year. It was awesome.
We always had faith in the members, and that was evident from day one. I think as far as just interacting with the students and what they're able to do. But man, I'm glad you saw it because we never know. At the end of
well, you're so in it. You're so just
I don't know, man. This could go bad.
I think that's how something special happens. If you're not taking risks and you're not slightly this might not work, but if it does, that's when something special happens to me. When you take the right risks, you have the right group of individuals performing it. That's when something special happens.
So before we jump into the video, then obviously the production changes everything. I know I read kind of some of the tidbits about the entropy and this and that. And was this all kind of a brainchild of John Vanderkoff? Was it? What did he pitch? Do you remember who originally pitched it? And was it something different that evolved into this? I know that's probably stretching back a little bit.
No, but it was entropy was always kind of an idea, I guess, from early on. I think that was John's idea. I think he got really into kind of celestial things with things devolving into black holes and kind of that kind of thing, the natural destruction of matter, those kind of sciencey things in astronomy. So that idea or that process kind of oriented kind of thing was a discussion from the very beginning. And then how that dovetailed with our kind of partnership with Sun Lux, I guess, going through their catalog of music and what we could use and what we could kind of mess with and compose to our own devices, and that changes everything. Obviously it's a title of one of their tunes, which is the only thing we really used of it was maybe some textural things, but the very first beginning, notes of the show.
Yeah.
Inspired by the very beginning of that original tune. So it's kind of a combination of those two things too. Just some kind of fascinations with some sciencey kind of ideas. I think from John, and then for the rest of us as we start talking about that stuff, and then just kind of listening through some of the Sun Lux stuff and how that kind of marriage all went together, and then things kind of coalesced around it, I guess, for lack of a better way of explaining it.
Okay. Yeah, and then you guys even had who was the drummer that came out and
Yeah, I saw that on
Sean
social
Crowder.
media.
and some,
Yep.
yeah, I watched the video he made, which was really cool.
Very
It
cool.
was super cool. Yeah, like the video is great. Like
Mhm.
really encapsulated that, especially for somebody maybe who may not be familiar with the activity or like
Right.
on the level that we are, but like to relate it to from a member's perspective, from an artist perspective who's having his music played by a drum corps, or like it was really cool. He
Mhm.
spent 2 days with us, like just he gave some lessons to like our drum set player, like he was
Hey.
just interacting with. He was out there running around with a battery on the field, like during sectionals. It was like from some of the footage that like is in his video is like what he
Mhm.
took. Too. Like so,
Did he, I don't remember. Did he march at all?
he marched tenors at BK indoor.
That's right. I
Like
remember from the video he said he marched something somewhere, but I couldn't remember
I
what it
forget
was.
what year, but it was maybe 06, 07, something like that. Like that
Yeah,
era.
yeah,
But,
somewhere in there. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but
but
yeah,
that was a cool video. We'll have to try to link that in there too.
Yeah, I'll put that
Yeah,
in
it
the
was
video
super cool,
description
like-
too.
between Sunlux and Sungazer, who is the band that Sean Crowder plays. Adam Neely is the other member of that band, plays bass. But between
That's-
like him, and, like, say it again.
That chart was called Threshold by them, or is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
But that was one of the cool things this summer is that we really got to interact with a lot of the composers that we used. Between Ryan Lott coming out from Sunlux, and Sean Crowder from Sungazer, and then one of the parts of the closer, the Dime Action, the Darcy James Argue, who did a Zoom session with the band, or with the core, like during move-ins, and like kind of talked through that piece a little bit, some of his kind of like life experience and musical experience. Michael Lorello, who we used some of his piece called Rose at the very end of like kind of our first major section of the show, came to the show in Akron and he was very gracious with the way he interacted with me with scores and that kind of thing too. So just having I guess back and forth, or at least relationships with the composers were performing some of their music was really satisfying this summer. It really worked out
That's
really
awesome.
well.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah. And
Well, great.
honestly, the members got to meet a lot of those people too. So that another level of that stuff that really was maybe hopefully an added value for them. I know it was for me.
I think it's probably definitely an added level of connection to the music you're performing when you like meet the original person. You're like, oh, like you
For
can
sure.
already create just like a visual like connection as well as just like, you know, a musical one. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, one of the coolest things too is seeing like those people like Ryan Lott or Sean Crowder like interacting with the group and like not used to being around the group or like groups of like that. I don't know, just seeing their experience, hearing their music played through a different lens and like to a really high degree of quality was really, really a special thing to see. And it seemed like it was for them as well. So that was really
definitely. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it, man.
Yeah.
And then we'll
Just
kind of
jump
break
right
down
in.
and pause as we go.
Yep. At any point, if you want to pause, stop, rewind, talk about anything, I'm sure we'll react live. And because honestly, I thought about watching this earlier to refresh myself. I was like, you know what? I haven't seen this in a while. I'm just going to let it be completely as fresh as possible. Like you said, like a reminder. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys can still see everything. Everything's good?
Yep.
All right. Here we go.
So those notes are just for this performance, right? Like the horn line was playing those in real
Yeah.
life.
Okay. I was actually about to ask that, so you read my mind.
So right here, right here, the sound changes, right? That's where the samples start.
I love the way the bass is led into that shot. Just the playful nature of the ball gets passed around from subsection is just so cool.
So I did think this is a good point. I know we talked about it beforehand, but pause real quick, Mike. We'll go back just like 10 or 15 seconds. Like I did notice, and it was just so visually appealing because of the consistency they were doing it. The pedaling and the vibraphone started off very like half note early, then it switched to, or it was like whole note, then it switched to half note, then it switched to the quarter, dun, 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 just because the note density picked up. And I know I texted you about it, and you said that that's something that you kind of like adjust over the course of the summer, depending on. Do you have something that you start with typically that's like, I'll start with this, and then we'll see what that is, and just change it from there?
I don't usually start with that because like you said, it changes so much like through the season. As far as it's deceptive, honestly, too, because you can be right on top of the vibe pedaling and hear like one thing, like, and it feels like clear, but then you step back from it and you realize you're kind of, the more dampening you do, the more like kind of taking away of sustain you have. So there's a kind of a cumulative effect of that creates kind of body as well. So there's a marriage between that too. Like things that sound like dissonant or like kind of crunchy or like they won't sound good over top of the instrument. Like sometimes you get back, that doesn't matter.
Okay. And I know you said it's always like a balance of finding like what you want with rhythmic clarity versus connectivity.
For sure. Yeah. A lot of this was the more movement in the part too, like the more probably you have to be more careful about the pedaling too, the more adjacent notes, things that are more chordal, that kind of thing, they can kind of ring a little bit longer and like they feel more connected and like, yeah, it's literally, it's just a case by case kind of thing. And it's like a day by day process of adjusting that stuff. But
tweaking it as you go.
In general, like if I want things like to really ring together and have a sense of a blurriness about the sound, like I'll write pedaling in for that, just like don't break this, kind of like a piano pedaling kind of thing there. But for shorter things, like I generally don't write that in, and that kind of gets like kind of taught during the kind of the micro teaching process usually.
Okay.
And then massage from there on. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Everybody can appreciate the consistent pedaling here from the vibes.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think I went back far enough. I'll be a little safe. Go ahead.
While we're stopped too, just this whole beginning, like up until like that first kind of drum solo that's coming up or like kind of percussion feature, this was all like the idea of entropy of being like order to disorder kind of thing. This is all supposed to kind of start very on the grid, very vertical, like you can hear everything's like kind of triplet based, very there's not a lot of counterpoint or kind of everything's vertical and rhythmic and like aligned, I guess, throughout most of this. So this is kind of our starting point to begin that process of kind of disorder.
Yeah, breaking it down. Yep.
You can kind of see the openness of the vibe pedaling here.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity for them too, because vibes don't usually get a lot of spotlight, in the show. The Murabas here with the tenors, and then kind of everybody together here as we add snares, layer the rest of the battery. First impact right here. Big backbeat.
Right into the run of the woods.
Yeah, vertical front to back. And again, very much on the grid. Front to back.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
There's two, like a 1E or something, mirrored by something in the front right there that just smacked me in the face. I don't know what that was in the front. I've never noticed that before.
Kind of Herta thing. Like
it might have been a wood block.
A simple stack, I think.
That one.
Yeah.
The high pitch. Yeah. Only my math brain is going to focus in on that.
I forget, like, Jacob, who's our drum set player, like, I think I originally wrote the like, those were doubled for sure, like a stack or like a trashy, like metal sound. Every time I would come back, I think he started adding more and more parts where I think he played every part of the battery rhythm there. Like it definitely like voices up to the quads, like, but I think he did something also like on the drum set there to highlight that. So it's one of those that kind of, it definitely grew through the season.
It evolved as days went on.
He could play it though, so it was all good.
Yeah. I mean, it was nails. It was lined up perfectly with those two tight notes, but it was just cool.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a stack.
Yeah.
Or two different stacks or something like a boot up.
So
that
wide starting
is
point.
hard.
You talking about the boot up?
With that, they like had the long pause and they re-enter. The snares do like massive long pause.
I always thought that was going to get taken out. I thought I would do it, but it never did. So
Survive.
I mean, there's a few things in there, just like kind of you heard like the Herta kind of stuff, or like the right left kind of. A lot of people called them fives, or kind of. It felt like five-stroke roll kind of pick up things, but they existed here and also throughout the show. They kind of became like a little bit of a theme, I guess.
Yeah.
We've heard those. It's not a new thing. We've heard those a lot.
Yeah.
9-lip partials, that kind of stuff, but. They were just what we used, like these little like embellishments. I think
it's like they're bursts, but your brain wants to think that it's a 5-stroke, but it's a little more open. It's only 4 notes. Right. Like it just like makes you stop for a second. It's like
the third partial of a triplet.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like that kind of idea.
Yep.
So that was there, and then also like just attacking things like right left, bub. That became like a theme, I think, throughout this beginning part of the show, like this Boston tune called Foreplay.
All right,
so
we'll let this go
that where we just re-entered there on that bub, it was very exposed.
Right? Yeah, that's what it was a long pause and just that's gutsy as hell. That is.
It was more of a thematic expression as well. Like it was like they kind of owned it and played it. It was never not pretty consistent. So like it stayed.
There you go.
Credit to them. Yep.
All right. Let's hear it again, and then we'll let it keep going a little bit and stop if we need to again.
Yep.
Little echo.
That's where things start to split in twos or fragment a little bit in a counterpoint conversation.
Check out the pocket. Yeah.
Right left.
So a thought I just
all
had
that
there,
kind of back and forth between the flat line.
Yeah,
So-
for sure.
this surprised me all season, but just refreshing myself on all this, watching it here, like it's just there's so much going on, but it's written in a way that it's not overwhelming. Like everything has its place from an arrangement standpoint. Like just my brain is sitting here like this should not be as easy to listen to as it is. Like it just flows and like there's a million things happening, but somehow it's just cohesive and just makes sense to where it doesn't feel overwhelming as a listener, which is really cool.
Yeah, it was a weird thing to write, kind of, because it's a percussion opportunity, but it's not a drum solo in a way. Like it was originally. What motivated this whole thing was, have you ever seen the videos of? It's the Japanese like kind of walking teams, like the guys in suits that kind of walk. And
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where this. We never quite did that in the show, but that's what inspired this part of the show. Like, as far as if you go back and watch the drill, like on either side of the core or either side of the field, there's kind of blocks of people that kind of, it's not really squad movement, but that's how they get there. Like,
okay.
So in my mind, that's what I was writing to. So this whole thing kind of started based on that, from the Boston tune, the boom, 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 like that minor bass line, right? That motivates that tune. So that's left in here. That's what kind of motivates the beginning of this.
Yeah,
and then,
that's cool.
So it's very kind of singular at the very beginning. They're gonna boom, 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 very downbeat oriented. Then we split into twos, like where you see those lines of people just do this and kind of change and like. So at least in my mind, that's compositionally where this was going. As far as we split Herta, right? The kind of conversation back and forth with the battery. It splits in the front ensemble in the keyboards as well. So kind of a process of kind of fragmentation, and then like some way to kind of bring that back together with a little bit more like a little more suspension in the harmony, a little more complex, a little more counterpoint in the battery as far as what you noticed before, that bagat kind of stuff. with the fivelets. So we started at the beginning of the show very kind of on the grid, very vertical. This starts to split apart into kind of twos, a little bit more of a fragmented kind of feel, but still feels comfortable, I guess. So that's the way inside baseball version of like how this all evolved. But if you want to listen to it, I guess from the beginning of that moment,
Yeah, I'll back up.
maybe with some perspective. But listen for the bass line, listen for how it splits apart, and then how that kind of progresses into a little bit more of a kind of suspended or a little bit denser harmonic environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we love any inside baseball you can throw in, and that's
sure.
why we're here.
I kind of forgot about that until right now. So
Yeah.
I was like, why did I do that? It was like, oh
There
yeah,
you go.
that's right.
Yeah, we'll watch the whole thing again.
Here's the
Let it
bass
keep
line,
going.
left hand, timpani, bow, 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 bow. The quad takes it a little bit there. It's all this right hand stuff together, splits. So this conversation of heritage.
All the way up into the front.
And it's more of a coming together here.
Good rolls.
So
I love how it dropped
that
down
whole,
a
like,
little bit before it.
that organ sound, that suspension resolution of the horn sounds. Can you stop a second, Mike?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
That all that stuff at the very end too, like the suspension, the resolution, like quarterly, and like what the battery kind of accessorized to. If you go back to like Boston, the foreplay too, there's a kind of a big cadenza in the middle of it too. So that's all kind of taken from that whole environment of that. So that was kind of the first like 2 minutes of the show or so. That's kind of like that whole arc kind of completed with that before we move into the Steve Reich stuff that's coming up now. So
Cool.
Nice. I love that.
Yep. So just clear it out here for the mellophones to take center stage.
Just very decorative.
Yep.
What's this time signature? Is this 6/8? What is this?
It's 5.
5?
Yeah.
There it is, yeah.
This is like 7s and 6s.
Yeah.
Get this, yeah.
The back and forth between the marimbas and quads is cool there.
Yeah. Pretty crazy body for the movement requirements for the battery there too. That you wouldn't see here.
I love this drone angle also, by the way.
Yeah, it's sweet. So much
So you hear all
spatial
this-
demand.
All the sizzle sounds and like the,
Yeah, the
the
washing.
way that
out.
evolved from like the very beginning of the show is a B flat triad, right? To the point where we're left with nothing but white noise. That was supposed to be the journey that took over, 4.5 minutes. Was to get to this point too, where all we're left with is sizzle and kind of where rhythm gets so rapid that tone gets so rapid
Yeah,
or
it
like high pitch that it loses. It loses identifiable kind of pitch. It becomes just noise essentially.
Did
Which
that?
left us with the flag feature essentially.
Oh, I was scared to say that feed into the flag feature. Okay, that's what I thought.
Sure, that
Makes
was
sense.
the straight line, I guess, into that texture.
Yeah, the
I guess is
motivator
what
right
we're
into it.
there, but-
Makes sense.
But yeah, but yeah, that was a long, I guess, evolution there. For where we stopped talking to was like the Steve Reich stuff was really about supporting the brass with kind of creating a level of kind of rhythmic drive, but also just allowing for transparency with them, I guess. And then,
Yeah, it was all like in the front, just a bunch of like, just with like flashes of all those just like little decorations and ornaments.
yeah,
But
you couldn't really see it in this video too, but like it's where they all started kind of individually. They had like little efforts to go dig it up, kind of up the keyboard, then they would change their thing. So like these are again inside baseball stuff, but it's like little things like that kind of motivate, like so they would do their little thing and then kind of join the next thing. Like so that was their activation to the next kind of vibe or purpose that they fulfill musically, I guess. Right?
nice. Heck yeah.
So, yep. This is the flag
The
feature.
flag thing was really cool. I was
It's
like, all right,
awesome.
with the crank up the mics and the fabric that they were using.
Yep.
The dampening, the press strokes. Such an ethereal, just
It's very stark.
yeah.
A lot of space. A lot of rhythmic responsibility. Or rhythmic space.
Ooh,
that
I
was
guess,
sick.
for responsibility. Yeah. Just
Awesome.
talk 1 second about this
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
thing
yeah.
as we move on. But so I guess each little bit, I guess, broader strokes for the entire show. Like the whole beginning part we just saw, then this begins like the second part where the vibes start with the chimes, like or with their dead strokes. The show is kind of broken into like 3 different parts, like long evolutions or kind of studies in entropy, I guess.
Mhm.
The first one being more like alignment and rhythm and the kind of just the breakdown of the musical kind of fabric. This one we started with the idea of like a physical kind of like a block of ice starts as that, and it melts and becomes water, right? As far
Okay.
as like creating it's from order to disorder. So this we chose like the Steve Reich kind of this. It's the second movement of his the 4 sections. But it has a very kind of detached and kind of cold quality to it, with these kind of just those dead strokes, the leftover kind of sizzle sounds, and just the starkness of that. So over
Almost-
the course of this, you'll see it kind of warm in texture, and then start to kind of percolate and kind of create a percussive current that is also water, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
not that you're supposed to really get water from it, but it was a way for us to kind of interpret music through kind of a physical idea, I guess.
I do, because like if you listen to like just like water dropping into like a bucket or something that's already there, that
Yep.
sort of or if you've ever dipped a Kurtali in water,
For sure.
there.
So I guess as we go through this next section too, just kind of think about how this starts as a block, it kind of melts, and then that water becomes kind of a current or a torrent or a waterfall, or its next eventual kind of purpose. So
Yeah. Interesting.
yep.
It gives me like a very like rain stick vibe that run.
Yeah.
I see that, yeah. Inertia. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Another great opportunity for the vibes here to really be. This is kind of a Reichian kind of like the same kind of ba da 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 dee da kind of interlocking rhythms, but
How many different triangles did you have?
That's the real question.
5. Yeah, 5.
5.
But they mirror that kind of the vibe kind of energy here. These open and closed notes as far as note length. And kind of the textural transition that happens through that. As a way just to contribute while there's these kind of trumpet solos happening.
And
Very
then
subtle.
when you wrote this moment, did you know or have an idea of like the placement where the battery would be in the drill?
I definitely wrote in the score from a distance.
You wanted them. It's one of those like I think Evan, you said this. Want to be felt but not heard. I guess if that makes one of those kind
Yeah.
of moments. I guess.
They definitely gave you the distance.
Yeah.
I can talk about this 1 second too, maybe.
Yeah.
pause it now or let it finish?
I'll give you a cut. I'll cut you.
Oh, okay.
You can feel the phrase. All right, yeah,
Nailed it.
Cool. So yeah, that was a really cool moment. It took us a while kind of to figure out like the distance and the rate of kind of how the battery would be felt. I guess kind of mirroring that with like what we functionally needed as far as rhythm for the front ensemble and all that too, and how that changed with our environments that we were in as far as outdoor and indoor and enclosed stadiums and that kind of thing that affect all those sounds.
Oh, true. Yeah.
But the idea for that was basically just that's where the current kind of starts, right? So we've had this like ice kind of it's melted into this really warm kind of corral and like kind of brass feeling, and then they start backfield with all that. It's the start of that kind of that percolation that kind of begins from that back corner, and then so that whole progression from where they start with the rubber tips and the puffs and all that, and kind of come to where we just stopped is kind of that identity and kind of this the front and back really don't line up necessarily. They're not intended to. They're kind of energies that kind of push and pull and kind of work together and then counter and then together and kind of to create that kind of uneasiness. So when we lock kind of moments like this and then later in this chart, that it really feels like that. So
with that approach to it, where you like they don't exactly line up, but they eventually do lock together. Was that a big challenge ensembly when you got to this moment to like clean it, make the timing line up?
I thought it might be, but it wasn't as much. Like there's things like triplets and like sixteenths and like that. They had like some kind of Swiss stuff, like like going against like sixteenths up front and the fivelets. We didn't try and make it sound like it lined up, I guess.
Okay.
It was a thing we had to keep them kind of far enough away and like the texture different enough from the keyboards and like so the perception wasn't that it was supposed to line up. It helps when the brass is in, honestly, too, because the keyboards are more attached to the brass in certain parts where like the battery is a little bit more counter like rhythmic, I guess, to that stuff. So
so it's more of like a rhythmic disalignment where not necessarily where like two different somewhat tempos going on. They're still on the same timeline. Right. They're just playing rhythms and stuff that don't line up.
It's like triplets against fives against eighths.
Gotcha.
It's like things that create kind of rhythmic dissonance, I guess. And then hopefully accentuate with the fact when they do lock in, I guess.
Yeah, so makes sense.
Yeah. Like right here.
Yeah, you can really hear it when they're this close together.
Like they were eighth notes against eighth note triplets behind them, so it wasn't intended to line up. Right there.
And then, yeah, you heard it.
They do,
with
right?
The singles, yeah.
So the brass was big here. That kind of like waterfall, right? Like you're approaching kind of the falls, right? And a little bit more here. Brass again.
Just builds
this conversation is turbulence back and forth.
Yeah.
It really doesn't feel like it locks in until there. Right.
And even within that more musical, like ethereal kind of feel, there were still some wild like triplet rolls right into singles, just like transitions in there, and the battery music is cool, working in the demand, even within that more musical moment. Super cool.
Yeah, it was like as they got closer, obviously, like they started with the snares off, rubber tips, the far away back corner, and then the gradual process of like, okay, basses, now you're on record mallets, tenor switch over, snares on, like just that progression of kind of texture as they got closer to the middle, and then like that last little, last couple phrases where they have a little bit more to say from a rudimental standpoint, like fast rolls, like you said, like hand speed changes, 9-lit into 16th, kind of 5-lit stuff.
Right.
All that kind of makes it feel not necessarily like comfortable and on the grid, but just we're still kind of percolating and like these cyclical kind of rhythms. It doesn't really lock until the brass hit their kind of resolution, which obviously you don't hear, but you kind of hopefully should feel when they get there.
And,
yeah, like
and that like
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and like that change to like shifting in and out of rhythms kind of gets that, like what you're talking about with the water and stuff, and like the current, how it's like not really the same all the time. So it's very smart.
But like just things that aren't like on a downbeat that don't feel 1 and 3 or have a kind of a checkpoint there. They feel a little more. I hate the word organic necessarily, but like it feels a little more
round,
natural.
Yeah, natural is a way better word. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. You talk about the implementation changes and all that stuff. It really allows you to build. We talk about building macro phrases on here a lot, and like starting with just implement changes. Then you have the rhythmic development. Then you have the rudimental density development. So it allows you to just really sustain a steady build all the way to where something's changing enough at every point in building that you never get, I guess, bored.
It doesn't get monotonous.
Plateaus. Yes, monotonous is the word I'm looking for. Yeah. Exactly. So
yeah, the pacing was a big part of that as far as like we worked with John a lot as far as, and he was great about like originally they came closer to the center way sooner, like that whole thing. And I think delaying their kind of progress towards the middle of the field and like their resolution visually really helped them become a separate entity and kind of exist and then mesh and then finally become part of like that final form. So I'll and Roger like really I guess embracing like things that are a little more like textural and like that was super cool. Like just like we went through how many trials of rubber tips and different like mixes and that
testing
stuff
this
and like
and that, and
because there's different hardnesses of rubber tips. We had a whole array of those and like different hardnesses and one person with the snares on. Just like just endless experimentation of what's going to work best and what's the best marriage between what we want artistically and then what also works from a functional standpoint so that JP in the middle of the marimba section knows what he's playing with and has any reference point at all. Like, because like you said, it's like 60 yards away, like horizontally. Yeah.
That's what it takes, folks. Testing 5 different densities of rubber tips to get the sound you want. It's what it takes to win.
The nuance.
That'll be a great set clip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Melting away. Oof, great. Good bass moment. Little metric accelerando.
Yeah.
All the space and the accuracy of those drum set hits. I love how the quarter note just lays over top of that roll.
Yeah, I love that transition. It's great. I can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Quad visual.
It just reminded me too, like the beginning of that, just with those like long kind of chords with the space around it too. Like each one of that's the beginning of the third section of the show essentially. So the beginning was the horns on the prop, like bump, bump, B flat chords. Part 2 is these like dampened kind of chime notes, or I'm sorry, vibraphone notes. And then we have these kind of electronic kind of like 7 chords. Each one of these evolutions that began these kind of studies in entropy started with like kind of a chime or like a home base or someplace to kind of devolve from, I guess, for lack of a better way of explaining it. But that was the beginning of that. So that, again, those three kind of pieces of source material really helped us kind of at least create a starting point with that. The original kind of threshold piece, like I'd encourage anybody who's a fan of Sungazer or like This Moment, or if you like that kind of stuff, he's a great video about explaining kind of the theory behind kind of threshold. It's basically threshold is like it was written around playing as slow and as fast you can at the same time. It's like I forget the exact number now. Crap. But it was like the slowest division of like perceptible tempo was like on the original recording of Threshold is like buzz, block, where you could like hear that relationship as far as a groove. So that was pretty cool, and it was like a very inspiring way of kind of moving fast and slow at the same time. So like you hear like kind of these low sound, high sound, but spread 5 or 6 beats apart at 180, which kind of created the framework for these kind of features to kind of live between, rather than having kind of this driving tempo. So it was a cool way of, I guess, approaching, or at least an entry point into creating a percussion feature for the show.
I think I backed up far enough. We'll take that whole thing in again.
Yep. So just listen for like, I guess the big beats, I guess, low, high, and how that kind of keeps going through the entirety of this kind of minute long percussion thing. Yep.
The synthesizer too, mimicking that.
Yeah. I just think create a cool context for being able to play kind of fast, but also make it feel kind of relaxed. People were like, "Oh, it feels so chill." I was like,
it really
great.
does.
Great.
Yeah.
But also, like, if you dig into it from a micro perspective, there's a ton of like notes happening, obviously too.
And that's hard to do, to give off that laid back vibe, but you're ramming notes the whole time. It's really creative to make that work.
Proud of that. Proud of how they performed it for sure.
In the pocket.
The vibe run at the end of that.
And all the way into the synth note.
Yeah, I'm super strong this year. Like, great expressive players. This is all support for brass event, obviously here. It's where they'll change to trumpet and mellophone, the upper brass.
The annual cross stick.
I'm sorry, mellophones changed to trumpet. We had 40 trumpets in this event here. So, yeah. Woo!
The timpani in there. Jom. Dude, the pedaling.
That's sick.
Yeah, quote the beast.
Funk.
The off-speed roll.
Little call back there.
Yeah. Your all's quad line might have been the triplet roll kings of the entire summer.
Not sure how to take that, but
It's a positive. They play a lot of really good triplet rolls, and I heard it all season. Yeah, I don't mean quantity, I mean quality.
I got you. So it's kind of winding down into the coda to the show, which is can you pause 1 second, maybe?
Yep,
too?
sure.
So something I haven't mentioned too is, I mean, obviously you can't see it here, but like anybody who saw the show, like the set pieces all begin like in the middle of the field in a block, and over the course of the entire show, the entropy of those set pieces are these blocks, these rectangles, they spread across the field and kind of break apart over time, up to this point. So at this point, they've broken apart to the point where they're kind of surrounding the field, and we kind of facilitate the very end of that with this little transition here. That's kind of a harkening back to a lot of their themes in the show, and kind of a wind down with this concertum stuff and all that. The idea would be this kind of like the last minute or so of the show, this coda is kind of, we've created this kind of order to disorder mess, and now we're kind of living in that kind of beautiful mess and kind of celebrating that. So that was at least the encapsulating kind of idea of the show, which goes along with kind of the anthemic Sunlux stuff you're about to hear.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we planted that earworm a couple times in the show so far, like part 2 in there. And so then you get it. There's a trombone solo that's happening right now that plays that theme, and then you get it quite overtly a couple times here.
Chalorando happens.
Yeah.
I love all those runs.
Yeah. Sound. It's a unique fill.
Yeah. Oh, I almost didn't write that.
Really?
When you guys are tag, I gotta go dope. I gotta get them.
That's cool.
When you guys are going through the process of like picking out the soundscapes and that stuff, like, is there pretty severe or like manipulation of like what it starts out and what it ends up being, like that last high pitched like sound that was da, 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 da. Like, do you like, oh no, we like it lower octave, we like a higher octave? Do you all mess with that much throughout, or is it like we kind of know what it is?
I guess I don't personally mess with that too much, but like honestly, a lot of the stuff like sound design wise was, I mean, certainly Matt like details all that and creates a ton of that, but we had access to all of Sunlux's like original stems.
Okay.
Sungazer was like, Sean shared that stuff with us as far as the original sounds and stuff too. So like that, what you're hearing, that ba da da da, like that was the original sample, like from the tune. I believe, maybe pitch corrected in some way, but like I think that was that. So certainly we think about frequency and like texture, like, or just, you know, how it fits with the moment, I guess. But
sure.
A lot of that stuff this year felt like not prescribed, but it was a little bit more like that's what it is because that's the tune, or that's what we're, you know, whether it's the beginning of part 2 with this kind of string slides, or the stuff at the very end of the show, like those were kind of original samples that we were fortunate enough to be able to use, I guess.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And then like the very end, kind of jumping back, like getting that last, was that always kind of in the cards, or did did that develop over the season as well?
Yeah, I think we always like kind of wanted like that's certainly the first ending we ever put like in a cut track was like had this kind of groove kind of to the end like bah, bah, like kind of rather than doing a chord or some sort of
long sustain or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I use the word typical, but I mean, this is just a different way to do it. It's like endings like this are hard, especially like they can be either too short or too long. It's very easy to do that. So like I think we hit it pretty good with this, but it's always artistically appealing to do this, but it's always hard to kind of pull off in terms of like getting it to feel right because you want to make sure you end strong enough before that, have enough length. Like the chord before that, it probably started as like 16 counts, like, and it became literally like 2/3 again as long. Like I felt like before Allentown, I added another 16 counts to the chord. Like I didn't do it, but I wrote another 16 counts like to it. Like so, like when I was saying, like I almost didn't write that at the end, like the kind of the threes or like that kind of like little fill at the very end. It's like you get to a point where you start adding kind of like length to chords and like adding demand and like it's like, all right, we have like a week and a half of the season left. How much are we to add in here? Like how long can I go this going boosh, boosh, you know, like
right.
Kind of the big open kind of stuff like that's kind of easy without saying something a little bit more musically. So it's always kind of a balance of that. But the players really rose to that occasion and like embraced, I think, everything we need to do from a kind of production standpoint and kind of adding to the show. And I guess luckily we didn't have to change too much of the show. We came out in a pretty solid form, I guess.
You read my mind, Tom. That was the next question I was going to ask you. So go ahead.
There was only a couple of projects or things we knew we wanted to do, but it wasn't feel like we had to fix the show.
That was going to be.
We wanted to enhance what we already like saw was the show and the possibilities were there. So I think the time we spent maybe, you know, the extra time we spent on production during move-ins paid off with us having maybe a more fleshed out product and knowing kind of being able to more easily identify what we wanted to do next. And I think
you figured the whole macro out early. You put more time into figuring the macro out early so you could just focus on those minor details and small tweaks as you got feedback and the performers got better at everything and you were able to fine tune. And it's funny, you said that was literally my next question. I was going to say perfect segue of, was this show being so complex and demanding one of those things where it really took all season to pace and get the macro and the micro, or did you have the big picture coming out and then you were able to just minor tweaks throughout? And it sounds like it was the latter.
I think through luck or through hard work or a combination of both. It was like we kind of came out of, you know, like out of move-ins or like early season going, okay, we have that to figure out. We have this to kind of like enhance. We had like 2 or 3 things in the show where we knew we had projects to work on, but usually that's like, okay, there's this 30 seconds of the show that doesn't maybe quite kind of work, or we do have to rethink this, or like there wasn't that.
There were no big picture full changes you had to make. It was all minor once you hit the road. Yeah.
I wouldn't say minor necessarily, but it was more like,
I don't want to downplay it, but yeah. No,
I know. I'm just saying, like, it was like I don't come across like we had it all figured out because we certainly did. It was just like it. But it's like, okay, we're trying to like create. We have 5 groups of trumpets on the props, and they're all doing these like beat. Like, how do we set this up so we really like see all of that and make this obvious? And like we had more time to kind of delve into the details, I guess. I think by virtue of a lot of the legwork we did like through the spring, I think. So
yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like you said, you know, it worked out pretty well in the ending.
I'll say.
Not just like, you know, from a competitive standpoint, but just the product that the design team and the techs and the students were able to craft and then ultimately pull off. So it's always just, like you said, a healthy marriage of like, when do you stop designing to just get the achievement to make sure that what we're trying to say is coming across as best as it possibly can, and just being like, we're going to live with this. And, you know, it's great. Let's stop messing with it.
Yeah.
It's one thing we tried to filter, I guess, a lot of decisions through was not making it easier, but just like having another thought about, okay, like how do we make this, I guess it previous iterations, I think we put more energy towards the intellectual, I guess, or like having that fulfill kind of the ideas. But I think the performers showed us they were so strong, I think, like throughout the process, that we really felt even more comfortable putting that onus on them to really like the end of the first drum solo kind of thing, or percussion thing. It's a long triplet roll at 180. They play, it's a small accelerondo. They play 8 tap 5s or whatever it was. But it's not hard, but it's going, okay, you guys just perform the hell out of that, right? And like just kind of trusting them to like bring that to life and elevate what, is, could be viewed as, I guess not basic, but like not, it's not an intellectual event. It's a performance opportunity in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Make this impactful through excellence, not through like what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So we tried to embrace things like that, I think, and give some of that onus back to the performers, I think, through the show, and let that kind of guide some of our decision making, I think, through it, which they certainly rose that occasion and gave that back, tenfold. So that was
absolutely,
it
was good to see.
Sweet, man. I mean, obviously changes everything. It's kind of funny that
we have a shirt idea that we'll tell you about later.
It does make sense. It's easy to connect with. I love talking about like physics to like my high school students. Like, oh, you can't create or destroy momentum or energy, so you got to shift it somewhere. Nice. At least that's what I talk to them about when I teach them how to move. But you got to put this momentum somewhere. You can't stop it, so you got to learn how to navigate it. But anyway, 2025 is coming up.
Yeah,
it is.
I'm sure you guys have already started.
I guarantee it.
I had a call earlier today about it, actually.
The opener's already written, right?
It is surely not. Yeah. No, we start usually around Labor Day, where we go away for a few days together and talk and a little bit, just decompress and debrief. And then we start talking every week, and it's all great friends, and like it's just what we like to do, and it's a pleasure. So can't wait for 2025. So
can't either.
Bluecoats.com/join is for auditions. And,
simple.
Auditions coming up November. Got some satellite camps, I'm sure.
It's always Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving weekend's always the first one for you guys.
Texas week before that.
Okay.
It's in Dallas, and then Ohio, and then I think the following weekend is both Atlanta and SoCal. So
okay.
Yep.
Making it easy.
Yep.
For sure.
There we go. All right.
Sweet.
Well, if you all don't have anything else, we'll wrap this up. So comment, like, subscribe, share the video, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, join button on YouTube. Aged Out Fundamentals, they will help you make the Bluecoats if you drum to those every day. Just saying. Work on those hands. AgedOutPodcast.com. Grab a shirt, sticker, all that good stuff. Tom, this is always a blast every year. Looking forward to talking to you after next season, and we'll see everybody in the next one.
Peace.
Thanks, guys.